Hey, everybody, welcome to the Experience Health Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Vassar, an online holistic health practitioner helping high achievers overcome weight loss resistance, gut issues, and low energy by healing the root cause. Today's guest is Lori Clemmons, a wellness coach who overcame over 25 years of chronic illness and now helps others reclaim their health through self-directed neuroplasticity. Lori is certified in trauma work, NLP, and hypnotherapy as she empowers women to heal not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually too. In this episode, we're digging into a powerful question. Is your brain keeping you sick? More specifically, we'll explore how limbic system dysregulation can keep you stuck in cycles of fatigue, pain, and emotional burnout, and how calming this part of the brain might just be the missing piece in your healing journey. So, without further ado, Lori Clemmons, welcome to the show. I hope I'm saying your name properly.
Yes, you are. Thank you
Perfect.
so much. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for this conversation today. So, diving right in, your story is absolutely incredible. So, can you walk us through your journey with chronic illness and what finally helped you turn the corner towards healing?
Yes, I would love to. So, I had been working in corporate America as a retirement consultant. So, working in San Francisco and really loving it. And then started having chronic fatigue, chronic migraines, and then actually ended up bedbound.
Mm,
Um, so I had gone from being very physically active and out in the world and into bedbound, and it was devastating. Um, just needing my husband to cook for me and having to wait for him to come home to be able to eat because I couldn't get up to go to the kitchen. Um, and so I really dove into all the doctors, the treatments, the all the different things that I needed to be doing to get well, and everything just kept coming back ineffective.
mm,
And so over 25 years of, I would have ups and downs. Things would work for a little while. But I ended up bedbound for about a year and a half of that, and then homebound for several years during that time with diagnoses, just these nondescript diagnoses: chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic pain, chronic migraines, lupus, celiac disease, gut issues, the whole list, mold
mm.
illness, Lyme disease. The list went on and on,
Yeah.
but nothing was working. And so until I found self-directed neuroplasticity, which is also called neural retraining, and being able to recognize that I had been throwing all these tools to fix my body, but my limbic system, which is that stress part of the brain, had gotten
Mm,
stuck. And
mm,
so the brain and the body work so closely together
mm.
that the brain was sending messages of danger to my body. And so my body was not able to heal.
Mm.
So as I got to learn more about how self-directed neuroplasticity worked, being able to calm that limbic system gave my body the freedom and the ability and the resources then to be able to heal from all of those diagnoses, including lupus. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, my doctor still looks at me like I'm cheating on the tests because
That's so funny. Oh my God.
yeah, it's the strangest thing because she can't
Yeah.
figure out how I'm doing it.
Mm.
Unfortunately, she's not asking about neuroplasticity. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's just been amazing. And I love being able to share my story with people because I know there are so many women
Mm.
who, even though they may not be bedbound or even homebound, are dealing with that fatigue or the
Yeah.
headaches or the pain. And it just makes life so difficult instead
Yeah.
of the joy that we want to be having in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Experiencing those symptoms is very difficult and it impacts every area of your life. I
Yes.
mean, the saying nowadays is health is wealth. Uh, and that is such an important saying because people take their health for granted. so much until they're sick and they're experiencing these chronic symptoms. I mean, I did that too. I was high achiever. I stressed myself out all the time. Overate, or sorry, underate, overworked, overtrained. And then I landed with chronic illness. I had the chronic pain, chronic gut issues, chronic fatigue for years. And I do have to say, it was the like nervous system side of things that really made the change for me. Because no matter how much physical therapy I did, or what type of food I ate, or how much sleep I got, when if I didn't fix the nervous system side of things, I wasn't getting better. So I'm really excited to dive into this topic with you. So before we kind of get into the limbic system, teaching people all about that, I want to kind of dig into your story a little bit more because I do think a lot of people will be able to resonate with the things that you went through. For me personally, my story does not involve the medical system because I had a sister who had chronic disease. She lost hope in the medical system. So I had already lost hope in the medical system before I even experienced chronic fatigue, or sorry, chronic disease. But you have a lot of experience in that. So I want you to kind of describe your experience with the medical systems, kind of things that your doctors told you, things that you tried, and things that just didn't work.
Yeah. Um, so, I did the all the blood work and all of the very traditional medical system. My parents, I was raised with the belief that doctors were almost next to God.
Yeah.
That, oh, we have to do everything they say and it's going to work. And that works for many of the things that are out there. Um, but I did so many of the special diets and honestly, the special diets actually triggered my limbic system to the point that I developed food resistance, food sensitivities. So I started becoming sick and stressed out over what I was eating or not eating, or if I gave in to just a few bites of something, then, oh, it was terrible. And I was really feeding that limbic overdrive.
Mm,
And so, really doing the opposite of what a special diet would be intended to do. And it's so easy to get caught up in the rules and doing all the right things and the perfectionism. And then I would get so tired of being sick. You know what? I'm just going to be well. And so then I'd go out and I'd do too much and then I'd crash for weeks.
oh, the classic. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I bet a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know I do that.
Yeah. Or I would have friends say, if you would just get out more. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, you're right. I know you're right. I'll get out more. And again, crash.
Yeah.
And so it was very real. So a lot of
Yeah.
times people say, oh, it's all in your head if you don't have a diagnosis. But that's not true because again, the mind and the body are so connected
Yeah.
that they really impact each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you, excuse me, can you share some of the, if you can name any of the diets specifically that you tried? Because I know I
Mhm.
see people who are like, Psh, I don't do any of those like crazy diets, but then they keep trying crazy diets. And I'm like,
Yeah.
do you not see what
Yeah.
you're doing? So if you can share kind of like
Yeah.
specifics so people can identify that a little bit more.
Yeah,
I
sure.
love that.
Yeah, when pretty quick after I got sick, I actually went on a vegan diet, which,
Okay.
it helped. I have
Yeah.
to say it helped. But then I look back at it and it's like, well, of course it helped. You stopped eating at McDonald's. You stopped eating
Yeah.
all the sugar. You stopped eating.
Yeah, it's like, what a surprise.
Yes, because I had been living, here I was working a
Yep.
ton.
Mm,
And so I was living at the fast food and the cheap energy from the sodas. And so, yeah, so the vegan worked for a while, but after a while, then it didn't.
mm,
Um, and so I went through the GAPS diet. Um, I did paleo and then even the keto and tried carnivore.
mm.
And yeah, so that was all, I mean, we
A lot
tried,
of cutting out carbs, I for sure.
yes, yes, and I think what part of what was going on was I had put on a ton of weight.
Mm,
And, and that happens a lot when we have a stressed out limbic system,
Yeah.
that the body's like, uh-oh, the world's not safe. We need to hold on to that
Yep.
energy in the form of fat.
Yeah.
And so I had definitely put on a ton of weight.
Mm.
So I was always looking for ways to cut carbs because that was, at that point, that was the traditional way of losing
Yeah.
weight is to get rid of carbs.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So it
I see
feels
that a
good
lot.
now. Yeah, it feels good now to eat whatever I want. It's amazing to be
Yeah.
able to lose those rules because those rules in and of themselves trigger that limbic system.
Yeah,
We
that constant
can't,
like restriction on your body too. It's not just like rules or guidelines in and of itself, but it's rules and guidelines that put more stress on your body. Because I think it's really important to like, focus on nourishing your body, focus on implementing healthy habits.
yes.
But when certain rules just deprive your body and put more stress on your body, that's not helping for sure.
Yes. And
So,
especially it was coming from a place of, I don't feel good. I don't like it. I need
yeah.
to fix the problem, which
Yeah.
means I need to follow the rules.
Mm,
And that whole thinking was
mm,
keeping that limbic system triggered, saying, things are bad, things are bad. The world is bad, the world is scary. And it kept my limbic system. So the harder I tried, the more it triggered my limbic system.
yeah. That's really
And
important for people to see and
yeah,
understand for sure. Yeah.
yeah. And it really took one day. It was my daughter, my last child, graduated from high school. And so then I was like, okay, I guess this is my time. What do I want to do with my life? I'm really tired of what I'm doing because this isn't fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start. I started out with just really simple. I'm going to find something I enjoy every day.
Mm,
And so I started at that point, I had been homebound. So I started trying to figure out how to get out just to get the mail. And then I
mm,
would walk a couple of houses down. And then maybe my fun thing for the day might be to do a little bit of artwork or to just look out the window and watch the birds. Or, just these little baby steps of finding joy in my life,
yeah.
finding those few moments that my limbic system could start to relax.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding moments where your nervous system and your limbic system can start to relax is huge in healing because a lot of people tend to live life very fast-paced. That's one of the most common things that I have to tell my clients, especially if they're like business owners or high achievers. I'm like, you need to find one moment. I don't care how small. You need to find one moment where you can travel back to calm because constantly living stressed is not going to help, with the journey. So I really like that sort of thing that you started with for sure in helping you calm your limbic system. Before we kind of get into things a little bit more, can you tell the audience, just so they have like an explanation and knowledge of what we're talking about here, what the limbic system is and the influence it has on your body?
Yeah. So our limbic system is that part of the brain that is always scanning the environment for danger. So think about if you're driving and someone runs a stop sign, your limbic system in a split second moves to move your foot to hit the brakes.
Mhm.
You didn't even think about it. It just kicks in to keep you safe. And so you can kind of think of it like a smoke alarm going off. It's saying, hey, I think there's danger. I think there's danger. And so it will stop everything in order to draw your attention to what it perceives as danger.
Yeah.
Now, what can happen is that it can make a mistake. It can think something is dangerous when it's not. And so it can trigger, and then we can kind of get stuck in a loop of this danger response. And when
Yeah.
that happens, all of our energy goes toward that limbic response. The heart rate goes up, and we feel maybe edgy. And so then the body no longer has the ability to be able to heal and recover. So we have just you're either in that, it's called a sympathetic state, where your brain is like, it's dangerous. And everything is focused on finding the danger, or you're in a calm parasympathetic state where your body is like, whew, now I can heal and recover. So we want to be able to move out of the the sympathetic, the danger state when we're not in danger so that we can take care of our body physically and allow it
Yeah.
to heal.
Yeah, and that's what you were doing when you would find those little moments throughout the day where you do something that you enjoy. That was you effectively moving into the parasympathetic state to support your body in healing and help your body be like, "Oh, actually, we're not in danger."
Yeah, but when we've been feeling that danger response for sometimes years, if we've been dealing with a lot of chronic illness, if we've been dealing with a lot of chronic stress in our environment, really, if we've been in our culture as especially as a woman,
Yeah.
we've got a lot on us. And so then any moment of slowing down can actually feel uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, that is definitely true.
Yeah. And we can feel a resistance to it. So we want to get up and go, 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 so that we don't feel that uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
But it really
Like,
takes,
this isn't productive.
yes, exactly, exactly. And so it really takes intention and taking little baby steps into those small times. And then over time, being able to grow that practice. So maybe you can only sit and look outside for 30 seconds before you start feeling edgy.
Yeah.
But if you keep practicing, eventually you're going to be able to grow that. And then over time, you're going to be able to bring that limbic response down and allow the body to heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start small and build up. I actually have an interesting story kind of with that. When I was experiencing a ton of like chronic illness, I was super stressed out and I had a physical therapist tell me to like meditate like 10 minutes a day. I tried to do like a guided meditation thing. Man, that stressed me out more than anything. I got pissed off at the person talking so slow. I was like, I cannot do this. I told her, I was like, I just cannot do like guided meditations. That's just like not my thing. Like it just stresses me out more.
Yeah.
But after that, I think it was like a few months, maybe even like a year or two after, I cannot remember. But I kind of started like trying to experience more calm moments, I guess you could say. Not as intentional as you were, but just like trying to focus on like calming a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I incorporated a little bit of deep breathing, like the physiological sigh was one that I personally enjoyed from Dr. Huberman. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah. And then from like the deep breathing, I was able to start like super short, like guided meditation stuff. And then now I can do guided meditations, no problem. In fact, I kind of like crave that sort of like calm a little bit, but I don't have clients come to me and they'll be like, no, I cannot do meditations. That just stresses me out more. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to be working towards that because that means you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so true that really it can be very different for each of us. And I've had clients that just can't do meditations, but you know what? We can start out with a little bit of art.
Yes, exactly.
Or
Starting out with small things was huge.
yes, and so often I think especially when we've been working out in the working world and with a career can feel like we got to go, go, go.
Mm.
And so we can have somewhat a little bit of a perfectionism a lot of times. And being able to step back and say, you know what? 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. So I'm
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
going to do 5 minutes today.
Yeah.
And, so often we can, oh, you need to meditate 15 minutes.
Oh,
Well, yeah, you start
I
with,
was the 5 minute girl for sure.
yes. And hey, 5 minutes is
Yeah.
it's a pretty good starting place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's 30 seconds or just anything to start letting that limbic system know, hey, it's safe to slow down. It's better to be the tortoise than the hare.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Those consistent small steps will add up as opposed to taking those huge steps that really just trigger us
Yeah.
and leave us back stuck in that limbic response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Better to be the tortoise than the hare. Something that's really important to remember.
Yeah, it
Uh,
really is that consistency
yeah.
is where we make those long-term sustainable brain changes. It's not those sprints that do it. We
No.
want to think it's the sprint because, okay, I'll just do it and get it over with, and then I'll be fixed and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. What was your experience with that? Because I'm guessing, within the medical system, you've probably gone through quite a few of those sprints and then it didn't end up actually helping you. Can you share some of your experiences in there?
Yeah, I mean, some of those diets,
Yeah.
some of the medications, like, okay, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Okay, and you buckle down but yeah, you just think I've got to fix this. So I'm going to just do everything I can right now to fix it. I'm going to get out and run every day. I'm going to, once I do that, then it's going to all be better rather than no, I'm just going to
I don't
walk.
know about that for chronic fatigue and illness.
You I- I'm a little older than you. So back in my day,
Yeah.
was back chronic fatigue syndrome was the yuppie flu from working too much. And you just needed to get out there and get over it.
Oh
And
my goodness.
so many of us were like, okay, I'll just start exercising again. And we'd push and push rather than, no, you take the baby steps so that your limbic system can feel safe to relax in for just 5 minutes rather than throwing everything at your limbic system. And that limbic system, it's not, it's when the limbic system responds or overreacts, it's not your fault.
Mm.
It's a part of your brain that is automatic that we don't have control over. So it's going to respond. And so then our place is, and I talk about this a lot in my book, is our place then is to learn how to listen to it and then guide it in the way that we want it to go. Just like that smoke alarm that goes off. We listen to it, we pay attention to it, we look around the house. Is there really any danger? No, there's not. Okay, well, we can turn it off.
Mm.
And so, in the same way, being able to, oh, I'm triggering here. Is that a real danger? No, it's not. I'm fine. We can let it come down.
Yeah.
And so then we're able to learn how to guide that response rather than having it take over and guide us.
Yeah. I think kind of one of the biggest reasons that the limbic system tends to go into overdrive is purely people just completely ignoring it and ignoring the signs and symptoms that your body is giving you. I know that's why I ended up with chronic illness. Uh, was that a similar kind of experience that you had with like the overworking? You just completely ignored the symptoms that your body was giving you?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I was working a lot. And then I would come home and I had a great friend group. So we would go jogging together, we would go work out together. So just a lot of activity, a lot of late nights. So I wasn't sleeping. And then I'd get up and go to work again. I was the last one to leave the office. And I think part of that too is so much at that time, so much of my identity and my self-esteem came from how I was performing and how I was perceived.
Mm.
And so that was a huge shift in being able to bring down my limbic system because as long as I was depending on how other people viewed me, I was constantly trying to do more, to do better, to appear better in other people's eyes, to build my self esteem, to build my identity. And so any kind of failure, any kind of falling behind would trigger my limbic system.
Mm.
And so it really kept me go, 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 do more, keep up, excel. Um, and so when I crashed hard because I
Yeah.
had not been listening to the signs. Probably about a year before I did really have the big crash,
Mm.
I was noticing a lot of sinus infections, a lot of fatigue coming in, But then I maybe take a day off and then hit it again. It'll be fine. I just need to keep going
Yeah.
rather than honoring my body, caring for my body in the way it needed to be cared for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I have a question. One thing that is definitely overlooked in the medical system is, well, obviously the influence of stress in your nervous system and the development of chronic disease. But I know a lot of people who even know what like nervous system dysregulation is or limbic system overdrive. They still completely kind of like overlook its role in the development of chronic disease. And they think like, oh, I have lupus or oh, I have like rheumatoid arthritis or whatever sort of chronic disease that their doctor decided to diagnose them with. And they think they just don't put two and two together is what something that I have noticed a lot. So can you kind of talk on how specifically stress triggers autoimmune disorders or I guess we can talk about autoimmune disorders because that's probably one of the like when people have autoimmune disorders, they just don't put two and two together. If people have like gut issues or like chronic pain, it's a little bit more easy for them to put it together. But like when there's an actual diagnosis for some reason, I just see people not putting it together. So, can you explain a little bit about how that stress can lead to the development of autoimmunity, like biologically?
Yes. So when the limbic system gets triggered, its priority is to find safety. And so, evolutionary wise, we think of the fight or flight response. And so the body kicks into either fighting or fleeing. So the heart rate rises. The blood sugar gets sent to the muscles. The muscles might stiffen and get ready to prepare to fight or to flee. Our breathing becomes shallow. All of these different physiological, very real physiological changes happen within the body because the body needs to prioritize getting safe, getting
Mm.
away from danger, and getting safe. So all of the body's resources and energy go into safety. So at that point, the body does not need to prioritize digestion. 20, 30 minutes, you don't need to worry about digestion. We need to get to safety. Um, your body does not prioritize things like immune system, detoxification. Your body doesn't even prioritize clear thinking
Mm.
because you don't need to be doing algebra if you're running from a lion. That's a waste of energy. We need the energy other places.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we turn off those non-essential places. Reproduction can be affected. So many places in our body can be affected because they're not essential in the moment. Now,
Mm.
typically 20, 30 minutes running from a lion, then we should be either to safety or it doesn't matter anymore. And
Yeah.
so the body typically, after 20, 30 minutes, breathe again, slow down, we're at safety, and then the body can go back to that parasympathetic, that relaxed limbic system stage. But when we stay stuck in that limbic response, the body stays in that triggered response with all of those, the adrenaline is still running, the cortisol, all of those stress chemicals. The body is still keeping the heart rate high, sending all of the resources, the blood sugar goes high in order for the muscles to do things. We're not thinking clearly. So when we stay in that for an extended period of time, then the body is not able to function in the way that it's intended to. It does not have the resources or the energy to do the day-to-day maintenance. So things like the immune system are no longer able to function properly. So the immune system may just not function very well. And so it may not, think of our white blood cells, our little soldiers. They're not able to get out there and take care of invaders. So we may have, in my situation, I had a year of chronic sinus infections. because my immune system could not take care of the invading bacteria. People who are
Hmm.
always sick. Or the other extreme, the immune system becomes confused and starts attacking our own tissue.
Hmm.
And so that then is called autoimmune disease when we're attacking our own cells. And so again, there are medications that can kind of help some of that process, but
Manage the symptoms, maybe.
yeah,
Maybe make
yeah,
others. I don't know.
exactly. Yes. But as long as we are in that stressed state and sending those messages to our immune system of danger, it's going to keep attacking.
Yeah.
And so really being able to, and I know that there are ways that you can work with a doctor that can be helpful. And if that
Absolutely.
works for you, that's awesome. But this became so obvious to me, I had done all of the medical stuff, but it wasn't until I started working with my limbic system that my body was able to heal.
Yeah.
And
Your body
so,
just didn't have the environment to heal from the chronic, symptoms that was presenting.
yes,
And since you were stuck in that fight or flight response, your body continued to fight itself because it stayed confused, and your immune system stayed, um, what is the word?
triggered,
Triggered. Yes, that's the word.
overly active
Overly active. Yes.
in looking for the invaders. There must be
Yeah. It's like,
invaders
what
here
is going on? I don't know what's
somewhere.
happening. I'm just going to start destroying their own tissue because I
Yeah,
can't find anything. So
yeah,
maybe it's in here.
right. The limbic system is
Yep.
triggered. It's telling me there's danger. I better go destroy. You know, and
Tries to
so
find something.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so we can get stuck in that because that, again, that immune system can get overly triggered and just a little overly aggressive. But when we can get into that rest and digest stage and the body can calm down, the immune system can be like, oh, okay, okay, we can bring it down now.
Like, oh, there is actually nothing invading the body. Maybe I
Right,
should stop destroying it myself.
right. But and it's amazing too how so often our own thoughts can be triggering all of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it can be sometimes it can start with an actual physical thing, an infection, some kind of exposure to a toxin. It
Old.
can, yes, exactly, yes, and I definitely had that.
Me too.
Um, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and the common ones now are Lyme disease and mold. Those external things that can trigger the limbic system.
Yeah.
Um, but it can also come from our thoughts.
Hmm. Can
So,
you explain that a little bit more?
yes, I mean, so think about it. If you were to close your eyes and remember an argument that you've had, I mean, like a real emotional argument. I mean, just saying that, I can feel it in my gut. My body is responding. And in the same way, if I were to start thinking about my kids, my husband, my best friend, a wonderful time we had, I can feel my body lightening up.
Hmm.
I can feel different. And so often the things we think about, and right now, our political climate, social media is so about fear.
Yeah.
And we can feel so drawn to that, which is natural. Our limbic system feels drawn to fearful situations because it wants to know what's going on out there so I can protect myself. And we need to be able to connect with our mindful self, that part of us that is wise, that can say, oh, you know what? I don't want to be watching YouTube videos all day long about politics because then I start thinking about how bad things are and how bad those people are and how terrible life is going to get. Those things can trigger our limbic system, even as well as just thinking about our job. being able to think, oh, it's going to get rough next week. If I don't get this done, it's going to go bad.
Mm.
Right there, we can trigger that limbic response. And so um, being able to guide our thoughts, being able to say, oh, okay, yeah, that is going to be difficult, but I know that I'm resilient and I'm going to be able to work through it. And
Yeah.
so being able to guide our thoughts to a place of calm, hey, we're going to get to it, as opposed to the, oh no, this is bad, which keeps us triggered.
Yeah. How about like negative self-talk?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is embarrassing. One of the biggest things that came up for me when I started doing this work, I could not believe, I mean, I didn't think of, self-talk. What's that? I don't talk to myself.
Yeah.
But once I realized and started listening, I could not believe how often I kept telling myself, you are such an idiot. You are so stupid. I would never say that to another person. But yet I was constantly saying that to myself. And
Mm.
it was, think about how would that affect another person if we were to say that to someone else?
No one would ever talk to me if they heard
Right.
what I said to myself then. Yeah.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
but yet we say that to ourselves and just how
Yeah.
hurtful that can be to our limbic system, to our heart. And so then what pressure that puts on us again to do more, to be perfect, to do all the things instead of having that self-compassion of, yeah, I messed up there, but now I know different. I was
Mm.
doing the best I can. Let's go apologize where I need to apologize and we'll come up with a better plan. The
Yeah.
same way we would talk to a friend or a child, and rather than just really being hard on ourselves. And a lot of people think, but if I don't be hard on myself, I'm going to fail. And it's actually just the opposite. Think
Yeah.
about think about who you would do anything for. It's not the boss that yells at you every day. It's that person who believes in you, who loves you, who cheers you on. And so really becoming our own cheerleader can just make a world of difference. But in our culture, we're not taught that. In fact, we're kind of taught the opposite. That
Yeah.
don't think too highly of yourself, which we can say, hey, you know what? I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
I'm proud. I really worked hard with that. I'm really proud of how that came out. And that can really help to help us be calm, to be at peace, and to find joy in our life. Because isn't that what we all want? We want that joy.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you're constantly talking negatively to yourself and not celebrating positive things that you've done in your life, you're not going to find that joy for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so we do want to be able to support that for ourselves because not all of us have someone who's cheering us on.
Yeah.
And we understand more than anyone the things that we go through and the difficult things that we've overcome. And so we owe that to ourselves to be able to say, hey, I'm proud of myself. I did a good job with that. It wasn't
Yeah.
perfect, and that's okay. But I'm proud that
Yeah.
I'm growing and I'm learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so important for people to hear. I know people will hear like, positive self-talk, cool. And they kind of just like brush over it like every other like saying that people just say. Like comparison is a thief of joy. They're like, okay, cool, whatever. But it's something that's really important for people to understand. If you're going to get anything out of this, please start talking positively to yourself
Yeah.
because that was a really big thing that I know for sure just kept me stuck in fight or flight because of how I was talking to myself. I would beat myself up about literally everything, and I would never like admit if I did like good with anything. It was just never enough. I was constantly comparing myself to other people, constantly like criticizing myself for like literally the tiniest possible things. Like I like said the wrong word or something when I was saying hi, or it was like an awkward like situation that I had with someone, and I would just completely like ruminate on it and beat myself up about it and feel terrible about that. But now if I have like a funny little interaction, that's the word I was looking for, then I just laugh about it. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. Uh, we do that. Humans do that. We have funny little interactions. But before I would have completely beat myself up about it. And that's definitely a big difference between like me constantly living in those chronic, symptoms versus now because my body finally feels safe to not live in that fight or flight response. So I want to I want to kind of like change the conversation a little bit into you mentioned in the beginning that something that you implement is self-directed neuroplasticity. I am so interested to learn about this because I've actually not heard about it before. And so I'm really, really interested to learn about how you do this. I might understand some of the concepts. I just haven't heard the self-directed neuroplasticity before. So I'm super interested to dive into it. So, kicking it off, what is self-directed neuroplasticity?
Okay, great question. So, self-directed neuroplasticity, our brain is wired for change. Every time we learn something new, the connections in our brain change. And so that in science speak is called neuroplasticity. Your neurons are capable of change.
Mm,
And so the brain is wired to change based on circumstances and events, our thoughts, um, our emotions. Our brain changes with everything that is in our internal or external environment that we come in contact with. Self-directed, meaning that we have the ability to guide these changes. So think about when a child is learning to read. There's a very guided process
mm,
that is creating those neural connections in order to learn to read. We get into adulthood and we sometimes don't realize how much control that we have over creating connections in our brain. And so they start happening automatically. So we can get sick and be sick for a while, or pain or fatigue. And so then our brain can get stuck in the, oh, it's just the way it is. And it's always going to be this way. We can get stuck in those processes because it becomes a very well-worn path in our brain.
mm,
And so think about if you were to take a path from your house to your friend's house every day through the forest. The first day, it's kind of tough because there's no path. But the more you travel it, the easier and the faster it is to get there. Same thing in our brains. The more we use certain things, the more automatic and faster that they become because our neurons are wired now to do
mm,
that quickly.
mm,
Now, if you're always in that path, that's great. But what if your friend moves away? Maybe she moves somewhere else. So now, if you go the old path, you're not going to find her anymore. You have to create a new path. So, the
Sorry.
same way with your brain is that if you've always been a certain way, you're going to stay that way. But if you want to change, you have the ability to change those old pathways and to create new pathways that you want. So,
Mm,
if someone has been stuck, for me, I was stuck with a lot of, oh, that's a bad food, that's dangerous, you're going to have a reaction. Well, that had become very wired in my brain so that even if my physical body was no longer having a reaction, my brain was still wired to make that reaction happen. But what I could do then is to be able to say, oh, okay, you know what? We can have a little bit of that food. That food's not dangerous. That food is perfectly safe. We used to eat that food all the time. And so then I can start to create a new neural pathway that that food is now safe. And again, it might start out with those baby steps of just thinking about that food. Maybe take a few minutes to think about it and stay calm with it. For some people, that could be a big thing right there. Just thinking about a food and being able to stay calm with it if you've had big reactions to it.
Mm.
And then over time, just grow the exposure a little bit at a time so that you create a new pathway of safety rather than that old pathway of danger and reaction. So we are able to direct that ourselves. So I usually talk to people about setting aside some time every morning and thinking about emotionally, how am I doing emotionally? And what are the old patterns? And what are my new patterns? Physically, mentally, and in relationships. So relationships that can be with people, can be with nature, it can be with our surroundings in our home. You know, again, for me with the mold issue, my brain had wired my home is danger
Mm.
and that building is dangerous. So being able to rewire those old wires so then we can let go of those old pathways and create new pathways of safety.
Yeah. How does the neural pathways, changing the neural pathways, influence the physical body? Because I know people are going to have this question.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So when think of it as going down a pathway,
Yeah.
and we've always gone down that left pathway. I had a client refer to that pathway as the desert of Mordor. And so seeing that pathway, we've always gone down it, and it's always triggered all of those stress chemicals,
Mm.
and it has sent messages of pain or whatever other symptoms that we're having.
Mm.
And so now we're going to create a new pathway. We're going to visualize that pathway and see that new pathway where this one client then referred to that as the land of wicked colors and joy, and it's beautiful. And so we're going to create those happy chemicals now, those chemicals of oxytocin and dopamine, serotonin, those really happy chemicals. And so now the brain, instead of being triggered with the adrenaline, which is feeding those reactions, it's now being fed with those calming, beautiful neurotransmitters. And so then the body is able to let go of the smoke alarm that it's been sending off
Yeah.
because it's now recognized and
Mm.
it's now calm. We're sending it messages of safety. You don't have to scream anymore. I hear you and everything is fine.
Mm.
And so then those symptoms can relax.
Mm. Yeah. So, by making those tiny changes in your lifestyle, you're able to implement this self-directed neuroplasticity to help signal to your body that it's safe. And therefore, because of the positive, happy chemicals that it brings, it helps reduce the adrenaline and the cortisol that your body has been pumping out, and therefore help reduce those symptoms, aka the smoke alarms that have been going on in the body, correct?
Yes. And so then the next time when well, after when you work with this, you can get to a point to where that food that used to be attached to that smoke alarm going off is now sending messages of, oh, that was good.
Mm.
I enjoyed that. That was really good. And so you're able to change those messages.
Mm.
And it's so amazing because it's the whole self-directed. We
Yeah.
have the ability to be able to guide those emotions, to guide those thoughts, to guide those physical reactions, to guide our relationship with the outside world, those everything that's outside of us. We have the ability to guide those things, even though when that limbic system has been screaming for so long, we can feel really stuck.
Yeah.
But it's those baby steps that then allow us to make those changes. in a way that the limbic system can handle.
Yeah. And then your body doesn't, or I guess like those stimulus or toxins or issues that your body is having no longer has power over, or I guess foods does no longer has power over your body because you've been able to change the way that you think about it and therefore how your body reacts to it.
Yes.
Interesting. That's super
Yeah.
cool. I really like
Yeah.
the concept of self-directed neuroplasticity. When you're helping people implement self-directed neuroplasticity, I know you've talked about a couple things, especially relating to like helping your body be able to eat foods that you were prior, intolerant to. Actually, I have a couple questions. Which one should I do first? Oh my gosh. Maybe I'll continue on this path. What are like the first things that you typically do to help clients implement self-directed neuroplasticity? Let's say, kind of moving away from like the food scenario, maybe to like another scenario that is common for you that you help your clients with in implementing this.
Okay. So a common one is fatigue.
Okay. Yeah.
And so fatigue is when that limbic system has been going off for so long, and then it finally is just like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And so we can have just that heaviness. And, I hear people say, I just feel like I'm so lazy. I procrastinate. But it's like, well, sounds like maybe you're more stuck in that freeze response.
Mm.
And so your body is having a hard time moving and getting going. And so starting out with um, being able to create a positive environment around you. So quite often we can get stuck in, especially again, getting back to the social media. We can get stuck um, in our thoughts about this is bad. I hate this. I'm stuck here. We can get stuck in these old patterns of
And
powerlessness.
and like constantly telling yourself that you're tired, is that a
Yeah,
big thing? Yeah.
yes, exactly. And this sucks. This
Yeah.
just sucks. The
Mm.
frustration, especially for women who have been so used to going and doing, it can feel very deflating to now not be able to go and do what we've been wanting to do. And so starting out with being able to figure out how can I calm? How can I regulate my limbic system? So finding moments of peace instead of constantly going with whether it's the social media or, and I really find that because it's so easy to access,
Yeah.
can tend to be, and I find it with myself too. I can get caught up in the YouTube scrolling and because it pulls us in, but really creating a just positive environment and allowing that limbic system to start coming down.
Yeah.
And then next is really being able to work with our body, taking care of our body, connecting with our body.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, you know, um, I was so angry at my body for so many years. It let me down. I wanted to trade it in for a better model.
Yeah.
I just there was just a lot of anger and hatred toward my body.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's going to work well with that under those conditions. So being able to connect with my body and honor my body, to be able to make my food choices not out of fear of what if I eat the wrong thing? I got to eat the right thing, but to be able to make food choices from a place of what does my body need today? What can I feed my body that will support the healing work that it's
Mm.
doing right now? How can I speak to my body in a way? How can I honor this place that is sending me messages right now through pain? Um, how can I care for my body in a great way? How can I have gentle movement instead of running myself to the ground because I need to lose weight?
Yeah.
Just really honoring the body and the work that it's doing. And then listening to the self-talk, like we were talking about, really recognizing that we do have that constant conversation going on.
Yeah.
Um, and hearing, listening to what we're saying,
Yeah.
and maybe even writing some of those things down. And
Kind of like being like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm telling myself. It becomes
exactly,
more real when you actually put it on paper for sure.
it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
And so things that we would never say to another person, but yet they're
Like, oh, I gotta burn this.
24/7. Yes, they're 24/7 in our head. And
Yeah.
and even being able to write them down, cross them out and write out, this is what I want to say from now on.
Yeah.
And in the same way we would do that with a child, being able to do that with ourselves, to relearn what it means to support ourselves and encourage ourselves and love ourselves. And then being able to look around in our relationships with our family, with people, with God or higher power, with nature, being able to look at what's going on outside of us because that impacts us as well.
Yeah.
And when we can look at those parts from that place of the mindful self, that loving observer, and be able to say, what do all my parts need right now? How can I support myself? And with the example of fatigue, how can I support myself? Well, you know, um, a lot of times I can see that self-talk coming back. So that might be a great place to start, is working on my self-talk or working on my boundaries with other people is a common one as well.
Yeah.
And so being able to look at those areas and be able to look at fatigue not as a problem, but as a messenger
Mm.
of my body saying, hey, I need some attention here.
Yeah. I see a lot of people kind of getting stuck in the cycle of fatigue in
Hmm.
that, maybe they've struggled with chronic, symptoms in the past, but then their body just stays stuck in the fatigue, which obviously there's physiological aspects going on too, but they're constantly like, if you're like, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm tired, or oh, I feel so fatigued, or I just don't have any energy today, or oh, I'm wiped out from such a long day, or from even doing nothing. Sometimes, if
Hmm.
it's their day off, they're still saying the same thing,
Yeah.
and they just stay stuck in that pattern of fatigue. And some of these people are pretty close to me, and I try to like help them in like changing that a little bit. But I definitely struggle in like kind of just like they seem to lack the what is the word? I guess like the awareness, that's the word I'm looking for. They lack the
Hmm.
awareness that they're kind of exacerbating that cycle by constantly just saying that as a habit. Like if someone is always like, ugh, today's not a good day, like every single day, what do you think every single day is going to be like if they get in the pattern of that? They're never going to have a good day. What if someone was like, oh, this is such an amazing day? Even if they had like bumps in the roads, maybe like unfortunate things happened in certain days, but if they still said that, they would have a much better day than most of the people on this planet just because that's their habitual response. So,
Yes.
for people struggling with chronic fatigue symptoms, and potentially exacerbated by this self-talk, how can you, I mean, number one, like, how can you help them become more aware of how they're self-talk? Like, let's say someone's listening to this and that's them. What would you say to them? And then what sort of shifts in their self-talk slash like habits would you have them implement to help them get out of that cycle?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the expression is whatever you're looking at is what you're going to see.
Mm,
So when we're looking at my life is rough. You're
yeah.
going to see all of that. But when we can switch that to maybe creating a gratitude practice,
Mm,
then you're actually looking for the good things. And that's what you're going to start seeing. It's amazing. So often we can forget that there are so many good things in our life. Yeah, there might be some tough, But probably most of your audience has a roof over their head, a warm house, a warm meal, friends and family, a clean air to breathe, clean water to drink. Just what amazing blessings and gifts those are.
Yeah.
And when we can really focus on gratitude, again, what we're looking at is what we're going to see. And so that can help to change those old patterns of I'm really tired to be able to be that instead of I'm really tired to be like, you know, it was really cool today because there was this really cool blue bird sitting outside my window that was singing. And so now we're starting to let go of the fear response, bring down that limbic system and start getting into that calm that you're looking for. And gratitude is an amazingly powerful tool. And it can be really fun with a family, either with spouse or with kids, of just being able to every day compare your gratitude and not just the this is the thing, but really to bring up the emotions of gratitude can be
Mm.
so powerful in our self-directed neuroplasticity. So
Yeah.
that's really a very common thing that I have my clients start doing is practicing gratitude. And it's amazing how it can be really difficult sometimes at first to
Yeah, it's like,
find
what do
some
I have to be
gratitude.
grateful for? I don't know. My
Right.
life sucks. And then you start looking at it, it's like, oh, wait. Mm.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so they can be that can make a huge change in our mood, in our emotional energy. And so that's a really great place for people to start.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring some positive energy into your life. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, doing it with other people makes it even more impactful because
Yeah.
you're seeing other people's gratitude. And so you're learning how to be more grateful in a fun way.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. That's something that every single person should implement. I actually have a gratitude and prayer journal that I kind of, it's like there's like a prayer request. I'm a Christian,
Mhm.
so that's something that's really important for me. So I'll do a prayer request and then like three things to give thanks to God for, and then like how will I make today a great day? And that's in the morning. And then in the evening, it's like three blessings that happened today, and then how will I make tomorrow a great day? And so I've been implementing that for I think all of December and all of this year. And it's definitely been very helpful in helping me just like stay positive. And sometimes I'll have those bad days where I'm like, I'm literally not grateful for anything. I don't want to write anything in this. Um, but I'll still make sure that I at least write what I can think of. Usually it's like this, they're like, okay, I'm grateful for having food. I'm grateful for having a roof over my head. Like sometimes it gets to those basic things, but it's still expressing gratitude even through difficult physical or emotional times, whatever's going on, making sure that you're staying grateful for the things that you do have is really important. That way, you're not operating out of scarcity and fear. You're operating out of gratitude and peace and love. Those are really,
Mhm.
really important things to operate out of. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. That sounds like a really powerful way to start and end your day.
yeah. Yeah, if anyone wants the journal, just message me on Instagram.
Mhm.
It's very helpful. It's the kind of like the faith-based version of the 5 minute journal.
Okay.
So if you're not faith-based, you can get the 5 minute journal and it's a very similar concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation. Um, Kind of to end off the podcast here for the women who feel stuck, maybe they feel like they've tried everything, they have multiple diagnoses, they've been trying the diets, trying the medications, maybe even trying the habits, trying to work out more, whatever. What would you say is the first step she can take towards promoting healing?
I would say, part of me wants to say that gratitude journal. That was sounding really good. But I would say just compassionate awareness. Start
Mm,
listening.
that's beautiful, yeah.
Start listening to what do I need? We listen to everybody else. We try to meet everybody else's needs. But very rarely do we listen. So listening to yourself emotions. What's going on today? How am I doing? Listening physically. What does my body need today? How can I help to support my body? My thoughts, listening to my thoughts, and how can I put those in a direction that I want them to go? And then listening to my response to what's outside of me. And quite often we can, hear, yeah, that relationship's really rough. That's not good. Or I need more of that person and what they're bringing.
Mm,
So, and just to do that from a place of compassion
mm,
rather than that place of self-critical, self-judgment that's so easy to fall into, especially if we've been dealing with some chronic challenges.
yeah.
It's easy to fall into that self-judgment and self-criticalness. But yeah,
Yeah.
just that
I love that.
compassionate awareness. And that's
Mm,
that's really going to be the first step.
awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, compassionate awareness, everybody. That's what we're going to be implementing. Where can listeners go to learn more about your work and connect with you directly?
I have a website, loriclemmons.com. And if you do loriclemmons.com/resources, I have some free things there that you can get a hold of. There's a link to my book, Rewire Your Wellness, which is available on Amazon or most any other retailer. And then there's a link also to my YouTube channel. So I have a lot of different types of resources on my YouTube channel. I post every week. I answer questions. So if you have any questions, you can leave them in one of the comments. And I most usually will make a video about the questions that I get. So if people have questions, they can get those answered as well.
Perfect. Amazing. And I'll have your website and some other links down in the show notes as well, so you guys can go to the description and find how to connect with her from there. But this was an absolutely amazing conversation, Lori. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to chat with me. Um, Make sure you go check out Lori Clemmons if you are interested in her work. I will talk to you guys in next week's podcast.